General Minho Yoon stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, watching status reports flow in from 100 different battle zones. The Caltherian Empire had committed everything. Their emperor had declared that humanity would be erased from existence as a warning to any other species that might dare resist their authority. 3 more colony worlds are under siege, reported his aide. The Caltherians are using scorched earth tactics now. They're destroying infrastructure, burning fields, poisoning water supplies. Minho's jaw tightened. The aliens had grown desperate and cruel, unable to defeat humanity militarily. They now targeted the things that made human worlds livable. Are the civilians evacuated? From 2 of the 3, yes. The 3rd, Horizon Station, still has 50,000 people trapped in the underground shelters. Get them out. I want every available transport ship redirected there, and prepare a response. If they want to escalate, we'll escalate beyond their nightmares. He opened a secure channel to Admiral Park. Jinho, we need to authorize Operation Ghost Protocol. The Caltherians have crossed the line. On the orbital station, Jinho closed his eyes. Ghost Protocol. The plan they had hoped never to use. The one that would show the galaxy just how far humans could go when pushed. Are you certain? They're targeting civilians now. Not accidentally, deliberately. We can't let that stand. Very well. Operation Ghost Protocol is authorized. Make them regret everything. Throughout human space, special operations teams received their activation codes. These were the units that didn't officially exist. The men and women trained in tactics so unconventional they bordered on psychological warfare. Commander Daehyun Lee led one such team, and their mission was clear. Infiltrate the Caltherian home fleet. Demonstrate that nowhere was safe. Daehyun's ship, smaller than a fighter craft, invisible to every known sensor, approached the Caltherian Emperor's command fleet. This was the heart of their military power, protected by 10,000 warships thought to be impregnable. They were wrong. We're reading the flagship's shield frequency, his technical specialist whispered, matching it now. The tiny ship passed through the shields as if they weren't there, a trick that had taken human scientists 20 years to perfect. They docked on the flagship's hull, cutting through the armor with molecular tools that made no sound, left no trace except a perfectly circular hole. Inside, Daehyun led his team through the corridors. They weren't here to sabotage or kill. They were here to deliver a message. The team reached the Emperor's private quarters, the most secure location on the ship, protected by guards and sensors and every security measure the Caltherians could devise. They walked past it all. Left a simple data chip on the Emperor's personal console. On that chip was a message and a video showing exactly how they had infiltrated the flagship. Proof that humanity could reach anyone, anywhere, anytime they chose. Exfiltration complete, Daehyun reported 30 minutes later as his team's ship rejoined the fleet. Message delivered. The psychological impact was immediate. When the Caltherian Emperor realized humans had walked into his bedroom while he slept, that they could have killed him but chose merely to leave a warning. Panic spread through the command structure. If they couldn't protect their Emperor on his own flagship, what could they protect? On Horizon Station, Captain Hana Kim directed the evacuation from a shuttle that should have left hours ago. She had stayed behind to coordinate the rescue of trapped civilians, refusing to leave until the last person was safe. Captain, Caltherian ground forces are entering the colony, her pilot warned. We need to go now. Not yet. We still have civilians in Sector 7. Captain, please. An explosion rocked the colony. The Caltherians were using heavy weapons now, not caring what they destroyed. Hana made a decision. Get everyone else out. I'm going for the Sector 7 group. She grabbed a rifle and ran through the smoke-filled corridors, following the emergency markers to where families huddled in a sealed shelter. Behind her she could hear the heavy footsteps of Caltherian warriors, their clicking language echoing off the walls. The shelter door was jammed. Hana forced it open with a pry bar revealing 30 terrified faces. Come on, move quickly and quietly. We're getting out of here. She led them through the service tunnels, taking routes the aliens wouldn't know about. When Caltherian soldiers appeared ahead, she used the rifle with precision that came from decades of training, dropping them before they could raise an alarm. Every shot placed perfectly, every movement calculated. They reached the evacuation shuttle with Caltherian forces minutes behind. As the ship lifted off, Hana watched the colony burning below. Another human world scarred by war, another reminder of what they were fighting to prevent. But the Caltherians were learning that destroying empty buildings and evacuated colonies was a hollow victory. Humans valued life over property, people over places. Every world they burned just strengthened human resolve. In orbit above a Caltherian military world, scientist Soo-hyun Kim initiated the most ambitious operation of the war. His team had developed an AI warfare system that could hack into Caltherian networks, and they were about to deploy it against the entire enemy military infrastructure. Beginning insertion, Soo-hyun announced. The AI, billions of lines of adaptive code, slipped into the Caltherian military network through a captured communications relay. Once inside, it began to learn to adapt to spread. Within hours, Caltherian commanders were receiving false orders. Supply ships were being routed to wrong locations. Intelligence reports were subtly altered. Nothing obvious. Nothing that would immediately reveal the intrusion. Just small errors that added up to massive confusion. "This is cruel," one of Soo-hyun's assistants observed, watching the chaos spread through enemy forces. "It's war," Soo-hyun replied quietly. "We do what we must to win. But notice, we're not killing them. We're just making it impossible for them to hurt us or anyone else." On the front lines, Corporal Hanul Park fought with his unit to hold a critical jump point against a Caltherian assault. He was young, barely 22, and this was his first real combat. The training simulations hadn't prepared him for the noise, the fear, the way his hands shook between engagements. "Stay focused," his sergeant told him. "Remember your training. We're not trying to be heroes. We're trying to survive and complete the mission." The Caltherians attacked in waves, brave and fierce, following their traditional doctrines. Hanul and his unit fell back, led the enemy into prepared positions, used every advantage of terrain and technology. They won not through courage, though they had that, but through superior tactics and better understanding of the battlefield. When the battle ended, Hanul looked at the aftermath and felt sick. Caltherian bodies scattered across the ground, young warriors who had believed their leaders' promises of easy victory. He thought about his counterpart on the other side, probably around his age, probably just following orders, now dead in a war that shouldn't have happened. "First time seeing it up close?" his sergeant asked, not unkindly. "Yeah, it's different from the simulations. It always is. Remember this feeling. Remember why we tried so hard to avoid this war, and remember why we have to win it now that it's started." Throughout the Caltherian Empire, reports flooded in of disaster after disaster. Fleets disabled, supply lines cut, communications compromised, worlds cut off from support, and behind it all, humans, fighting a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Caltherians called emergency sessions of their war council. Traditional strategies weren't working. Honor and courage weren't enough. They faced an enemy who used every advantage, who valued victory over glory, who fought with intelligence rather than just strength. "We must adapt," some counselors argued. "Learn from them, change our tactics." "Never," the traditionalists countered. "We are Caltherians. We do not abandon our ways for anyone." While they argued, humanity pressed their advantage. Admiral Park prepared the final phase, the operation that would end the war one way or another. It was called Operation Broken Crown, and it would demonstrate once and for all that humanity was done being pushed around. "Gather the fleet," Jinho ordered. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon system we've developed. We're going to take this fight to their home system. We're going to show them what it means to threaten Earth." His staff stared at him in shock. "Sir, that's their capital. It's defended by their entire remaining fleet, I know. That's exactly why we're going there. To prove that they can't hide from the consequences of starting this war." Preparations began. This would be humanity's greatest military operation, the moment when they stopped being defenders and became something more. The galaxy watched, waiting to see what humans would do when they had the advantage. Inside her quarters, young Ensign Ji-won Park wrote in her journal, trying to process everything she had seen. She had joined the fleet believing in humanity's peaceful mission, wanting to explore and discover. Instead, she had witnessed humanity at war, and it frightened her. Not because they were losing, but because they were winning. Because she saw how easily her species had transformed from explorers into warriors. "Are we becoming like them?" she wrote. "Are we letting this war change us into something we don't want to be?" She didn't have answers. None of them did. They only knew that they had been given no choice, and now they had to see it through to Vice Admiral Sehun Cho, stood on the bridge of the super dreadnought Defender, leading the largest human fleet ever assembled. 50,000 warships hung in space at the edge of the Caltherian home system, waiting for the final order. Behind them, throughout human space, another 50,000 ships stood ready to respond to any counterattack. This was Operation Broken Crown, and there would be no turning back. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Weapon systems charged. Jump coordinates locked. Seon looked at the faces of his bridge crew. They were quiet, focused, but he could see the weight on them. They were about to attack the enemy's home, to bring war to the Caltherians the way the Caltherians had brought war to humanity. It was necessary, it was justified, but it still felt heavy. Open a channel to Admiral Park, Sehun ordered. Jinho's face appeared on the screen. The Admiral looked tired, older somehow than just months ago. War did that to people. Are you ready, Sehun? As ready as we'll ever be. Sir, once we do this, there's no going back. We'll have proven we can strike their capital. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. I know. But they need to understand that humanity will go to any length to protect itself. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for survival. Make it clear, Sehun. Overwhelming, but precise. Military targets only. Show them our power, but also our restraint. Understood, sir. Beginning operation now. The fleet jumped. 50,000 human warships emerged from hyperspace simultaneously throughout the Caltherian home system. It was a display of coordination and technological superiority that stunned observers across the galaxy. The Caltherian defense fleet, expecting days of warning before any attack could reach them, found themselves surrounded in seconds. This is Vice Admiral Sehun Cho to all Caltherian forces. He broadcast on all frequencies. We are not here to exterminate you. We are here to end this war. Power down your weapons and shields. Do not resist. Anyone who surrenders will be treated with respect. Anyone who fights will be disabled. Choose wisely. The Caltherian home fleet, proud and ancient, chose to fight. They had defended their capital for 1,000 years. They would not surrender it without a battle, even knowing they were outmatched. So be it, Sehun said quietly. All ships execute precision strikes. Disable, don't destroy. Remember, these are warriors following orders, not our true enemies. What followed was less a battle than a demonstration. Human ships moved through Caltherian formations like surgeons, targeting weapon systems, engines, shield generators. They used weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Technology held in reserve for exactly this moment. Dr. Minji Shin's quantum disruption torpedoes passed through shields as if they weren't there, shutting down ships without damaging their life support. Singularity mines created tiny gravity wells that trapped entire squadrons, holding them immobile but unharmed. AI-controlled drone swarms overwhelmed Caltherian point defenses, allowing larger ships to close in and deliver disabling blows. Commander Daehyun Lee led special forces teams in boarding actions against the most stubborn defenders. His teams moved through Caltherian vessels like ghosts, using non-lethal weapons to incapacitate crew members, taking control of ships from within. It was a level of close-quarters combat expertise that shocked the aliens, who had thought themselves masters of warfare. Forward hangar secured, Daehyun reported from inside a Caltherian dreadnought. Crew is restrained and receiving medical attention. No fatalities on either side. That was the pattern throughout the battle. Humans fought with overwhelming force but careful precision. Every shot was calculated. Every action was measured. They demonstrated that they could destroy the entire Caltherian fleet, but they chose to disable it instead. On Earth, Dr. Yaren Kim watched the battle feeds alongside Ambassador Yuna Lee. Yaren had been brought in as a diplomatic advisor to help humanity navigate the end of the war without becoming the very thing they fought against. This is extraordinary, Yaren observed. The restraint being shown even now. Most species, having gained this advantage, would crush their enemy completely. Yuna nodded, but her expression was troubled. We're walking a fine line. We need to show enough force that they never try this again, but not so much that we become monsters in the galaxy's eyes. We need them to fear our capability but respect our character. Do you think it's working? We'll know soon enough. Look, the Emperor's flagship is breaking formation. In the Caltherian capital, Emperor Throne watched his fleet being systematically disabled. Every ship he sent was stopped. Every strategy was countered. The humans fought with a precision and effectiveness that made it clear they could have done this months ago, could have struck it as hard any time they wanted. They had held back. They had shown mercy even as they showed strength. "Open a channel to their admiral," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. Sehun's face appeared on his screen. The human looked tired, sad even, not triumphant. "Your Imperial Majesty," Sehun said with a respectful nod. "I hope you're ready to discuss peace." "You have won," Throne admitted, the words bitter but necessary. "Your forces have proven superior. What are your terms for our surrender?" Before Sehun could answer, Jinho's voice came through on the same channel. "Not surrender, ceasefire. There's a difference." Another screen activated, showing Admiral Park from his command station above Earth. Beside him stood Ambassador Yuna, ready to begin negotiations that should have happened months ago. "We don't want your empire," Jinho continued. "We don't want your territory or your resources. We want what we've always wanted, to be left in peace. But since you've proven you can't be trusted with our security, we'll need guarantees." Throughout the Caltharian home system, the human fleet held position. They had disabled nearly 80% of the enemy forces without destroying them. Medical teams were already moving to help the wounded. Human ships were tractoring disabled vessels away from collision courses. Rescue operations were underway for life pods and damaged ships. Ensign Ji-1 Park watched from her station aboard a rescue vessel as they pulled Caltharian survivors from a crippled cruiser. The aliens looked shocked, confused. They had expected extermination. Instead, they were being saved by the very people they had tried to destroy. "Why?" One Caltharian soldier asked her through a translator. "Why do you help us after what we did?" Ji-1 thought about that question, really thought about it. "Because we remember what it was like when humans fought other humans. We remember the hate, the revenge cycles, the endless wars. We learned that if you want peace, you have to be willing to show mercy even to your enemies. Especially to your enemies." The soldier stared at her with wide eyes as if seeing something he had never imagined possible. In the peace talks that began immediately, the terms were surprisingly simple. The Caltharian Empire would withdraw from all human territory. They would establish a demilitarized zone between their space and human space. They would accept permanent observers to ensure no future aggression. And in return, humanity would help repair the damaged Caltharian vessels and would not demand any tribute or reparations. "You could take everything from us," Throne said during the negotiations, still not understanding. "Why don't you?" Admiral Park looked at the Emperor with eyes that had seen too much war. "Because that's not who we are. We showed you what humans can do when we choose war. We did it because you forced us to. But we also want to show you what humans choose when we have a choice. We choose mercy. We choose to help even those who hurt us. We choose to build rather than destroy." He pulled up records of Earth's history, showing the Caltharians the wars that had nearly destroyed humanity. The nuclear weapons, the biological attacks, the countless conflicts that had killed billions. "We learned from this," Jinho explained. "We learned that strength without wisdom leads to ruin. We learned that the real test of a civilization isn't how well they fight, but how wisely they choose when to fight and when to show mercy." Ambassador Yuna took over, her diplomatic skills finally getting to shine. "The galaxy has watched this war. They've seen what humanity is capable of. They've seen our weapons, our tactics, our technology. But more importantly, we want them to see this, that we know when to stop, that we can be trusted with power because we don't abuse it." Over the following days, the peace treaty was finalized. The Caltharian military forces were allowed to keep their ships, but all were required to undergo inspections and downgrade their offensive capabilities. Human military observers would be stationed throughout border regions. Trade agreements were established to rebuild what the war had damaged. Dr. Minji Shin supervised the transfer of medical technology to help treat wounded Caltharians. It was older human technology, nothing that would give away military secrets, but advanced enough to save thousands of lives. "Building bridges," she told her team. "That's what we do now." General Minho Yoon oversaw the withdrawal of human forces from Caltharian territory. It was done systematically, carefully, showing the same precision that had marked their attacks. "Leave nothing but the evidence we were here," he ordered. "And leave that evidence in the form of rebuilt infrastructure and medical supplies." Throughout the galaxy, other species watched and learned. They saw that Huma, Fleet Commander Hyunwoo Nam, stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, watching the crew prepare for what intelligence called the real war. The first battle had been a test, a message. The Caltharian Empire's response had been overwhelming. 200,000 ships were now converging on human space from 3 different directions. "They're throwing everything at us," Lieutenant Nari Song observed from the tactical station. "Every fleet, every battle group, every vessel they can pull from garrison duty." Hyunwoo studied the strategic display. Red markers flooded the map like blood spreading across cloth. "They're angry. They want to make an example of us. Show the galaxy what happens when someone embarrasses the Empire." "Can we win against those numbers?" asked Yujin Park, the chief engineer. She had been working without sleep for days, keeping the ship's new weapon systems operational. "We don't need to destroy them all," Hyunwoo answered. "We just need to make them wish they had never heard of Earth." 3 sectors away, Captain Jisoo Han commanded a stealth ship on a mission that would determine the course of the war. Her vessel, the Silent Wind, approached a Caltherian supply depot that fed their advancing fleets. The depot was massive, a space station the size of a city surrounded by defensive platforms and patrol ships. "We're reading 300 defenders," her sensor operator reported. "Mostly automated defenses, about 50 manned vessels." Jisoo smiled coldly. The Caltherians still didn't understand human stealth technology. They relied on active sensors, sending out pulses of energy and waiting for reflections. Human ships absorbed those pulses, appearing as nothing more than empty space. By the time the aliens realized something was wrong, it would be too late. "Take us in. Target the fuel storage tanks. We're not here to fight, we're here to starve their fleet." The Silent Wind glided past the defensive perimeter like a whisper through darkness. Human engineers had studied how every known species built sensors, had found the gaps, the blind spots, the weaknesses. Stealth wasn't about being invisible. It was about understanding your enemy better than they understood themselves. They reached the station's core. Jisoo armed the torpedoes personally, checking each one. These weren't explosive weapons. They were something humans had invented specifically for this war: molecular disassemblers. Tiny machines that would spread through the fuel stores and break down the chemical bonds, turning refined fuel into useless sludge. Fire. 6 torpedoes launched, silent and invisible, impacting the station's storage tanks before anyone noticed. The nanomachines began their work immediately. "Within hours, every drop of fuel in the depot would be worthless. Get us out of here." Next target. The Silent Wind vanished back into the void, leaving the Caltherians to discover their problem only when ships began running out of fuel in the middle of their advance. On the colony world of Novaterra, Major Yoonji Kwan watched the evacuation ships lift off with the last of the civilians. Her Marine battalion had volunteered to stay behind, to defend the colony infrastructure until the fleet could arrive. The Caltherians were 12 hours away. "Yoonji," called her second in command, "the traps are set. Every approach, every landing zone, every obvious tactical position." She nodded, checking her weapon one more time. Humans had spent generations studying their own military history, learning from every war, every battle, every tactical innovation. They had learned from ancient Earth commanders, from the great generals and the terrible wars. They knew every trick, every strategy, every way to make a superior enemy bleed. "Remember," she told her troops over the company channel, "the Caltherians fight with honor. They announce their attacks. They charge directly. They believe that courage and strength always win." She paused, making sure everyone was listening. "We're going to teach them why Sun Tzu said all warfare is based on deception." When the Caltherian landing force arrived, they found a seemingly abandoned colony. They landed their troops in the main plaza, formed up in parade ground formations, and advanced on the government buildings expecting token resistance. The first mine detonated under their lead company. Then the second. Then the third. Human Marines opened fire from concealed positions in buildings the Caltherians had already cleared. Sniper teams that had hidden in underground tunnels emerged behind enemy lines. Drones no bigger than insects flew through the alien ranks, marking targets and spreading chaos. The Caltherians tried to respond with their superior numbers and firepower, but they couldn't fight an enemy they couldn't see. Every time they thought they had located human positions, those positions were empty. The defenders already moved to new locations. Every time they called for support, their communications were jammed or filled with false information. Yoonji watched from her command post as the enemy force, 10 times larger than her own, retreated back to their ships in disorder. "Pursue," she ordered. "Keep hitting them. Don't let them think they're safe anywhere." The Marines followed, using hit-and-run tactics, never staying in one place, never giving the enemy a clear target. By the time the Caltharians managed to regroup and lift off, they had lost a third of their force without ever getting close to their objectives. In space, Hyunwoo's fleet engaged the main Caltharian advance using tactics that would have horrified the aliens if they had understood them. Human ships didn't form battle lines. They didn't announce their attacks. They used asteroids and debris fields as cover. They transmitted false signals to confuse enemy targeting. They attacked supply lines and support vessels instead of fighting the heavy warships head-on. "Sir, enemy dreadnought group is trying to engage us," Nari reported. "Let them try." "Yujin, how long until our surprise is ready?" The engineer checked her displays. 90 seconds. The magnetic field is almost at full strength. Hyunwoo watched the enemy ships approach, their massive guns charging. They were hunting for a decisive battle, expecting the humans to face them ship to ship like civilized warriors. Instead, they were sailing into a trap that used the system's own star as a weapon. "Now," Hyunwoo ordered. Hidden satellites throughout the system activated simultaneously, generating a massive directed magnetic pulse using the star's own energy. The pulse swept across the Caltharian formation, overloading their systems, frying circuits, disabling weapons and shields. The great warships went dark, powerless. Second wave, move in. Disable them completely. Human ships swept through the helpless enemy fleet, systematically taking apart their weapon systems and engines. Not destroying, just disabling, leaving the aliens alive but helpless, drifting in space, waiting for rescue that would take days to arrive. Throughout the battle zone, the pattern repeated. Human forces used mobility over strength, intelligence over honor, creativity over tradition. They studied Caltharian psychology and exploited it ruthlessly. They knew the aliens valued courage, so they made courageous charges suicidal. They knew the aliens respected strength, so they demonstrated strength in ways the aliens couldn't counter. On Earth, Dr. Minji Shin worked with her team on the next generation of weapons. "The Caltharians adapt slowly," she explained to Admiral Park over a video call. "They're tradition-bound. Each weapon we deploy will be effective for weeks before they develop countermeasures. We need to stay ahead. Keep innovating. Show me what you have." Minji brought up designs for quantum disruption mines, singularity missiles, AI-controlled drone swarms, weapons that seemed like science fiction even to humans. "We've been developing these for decades, Admiral. We hoped we'd never need them. But if the Caltharians want to escalate, we can escalate beyond their imagination." Jinho looked at the weapons designs and felt a chill. This was humanity at war. Humanity with all its creativity and innovation turned toward destruction. They were showing the galaxy that the species that invented art and music and poetry could also invent nightmares. "Keep developing them," he ordered quietly. "But let's try not to use them if we can avoid it." The Caltharian Empire's military forums, intercepted by human intelligence, showed growing fear and confusion. The warriors who had conquered 17 species were now facing an enemy they couldn't understand. Humans didn't fight fair. Humans didn't follow the rules. Humans appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Rumors spread through Caltharian ranks, stories of entire fleets going missing, tales of supply depots destroyed without a shot fired, whispers of an enemy who could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning. The proud warriors who had entered human space expecting an easy victory now jumped at shadows. "They're calling us demons," Suman Bey reported, reading the intercepted communications. "Some of their troops are refusing to advance. Morale is collapsing." Hyunwoo felt no satisfaction in that news. Fear was a weapon, yes, but it was also dangerous. Frightened enemies did desperate things. "Keep the pressure on," he ordered. "But maintain the rules of engagement. No civilian targets. Medical aid to prisoners. We're not actually demons even if we let them think we might be." The war was changing. The Caltharians had come with overwhelming force, expecting to crush humanity. Instead, they found themselves fighting a war they didn't understand against an enemy who rewrote the rules with every engagement. And slowly, inevitably, they began to realize they might not win. Admiral Jinho Park stood before the massive window of Earth's orbital command station, watching the blue planet rotate slowly beneath him. His reflection stared back from the glass, tired eyes that had seen too many diplomatic failures in recent months. Behind him, the command center buzzed with urgent voices and flashing screens. "They're here," Captain Hana Kim announced, her voice cutting through the noise. The Caltharian ambassador's ship just entered Earth space. Jinho turned away from the window and walked to the central holographic display. A sleek alien vessel appeared above the projector, its purple hull gleaming with an arrogance that made his jaw tighten. The Caltherians had been humanity's first contact with an aggressive alien species, and in the 15 years since that meeting, relations had grown worse with each passing month. The communication screen flickered to life. Ambassador Yuna Lee appeared, her face composed despite the tension in her shoulders. She sat across from the Caltherian representative in the diplomatic chamber 3 decks below. The alien was tall, nearly 8 feet, with skin like polished stone and eyes that burned with an inner fire. The Caltherian Empire has been patient with your kind, the alien spoke through the translation device. But patience has limits. You will surrender all colonies beyond your home system. You will pay tribute to the Empire. You will submit to our authority. You have 72 hours to comply. Yuna's expression didn't change. The people of Earth have lived in peace for 2 centuries. We have no desire for conflict. Surely we can find a diplomatic solution that respects both our peoples. The Caltherian laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. You mistake our offer for negotiation. It is not. Your military is weak. Your fleet is small. You have spread yourselves thin across dozens of worlds. The Empire takes what it wishes from those too weak to hold it. Choose wisely, humans. The screen went dark. Yuna appeared moments later at the command center entrance, her diplomatic mask finally cracking to show anger beneath. They won't listen to reason, she said. They've counted our ships. They think we're defenseless. Taiyang Choi, the chief strategist, pulled up a tactical display. Red markers showed Caltherian fleet positions throughout the sector. Blue markers showed human colonies and the small defense forces stationed at each. Their intelligence is accurate, he admitted. They've seen our patrol routes, counted our vessels. On paper, we have maybe 2,000 military ships. They have 10,000 in this sector alone. On paper, Jinho repeated quietly. He looked around the room at the faces of men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment, hoping it would never come. Hana, bring up Protocol Omega. The captain hesitated for just a second, then her fingers flew across her console. The holographic display changed. Blue markers multiplied across the map, appearing in asteroid fields inside nebulas buried in moon bases, hidden in plain sight among civilian traffic. The number of human military vessels climbed from 2,000 to 5,000, then 10,000, then kept rising. 50,000 combat vessels, Hana said softly, give or take a few hundred, plus another 20,000 support ships, mobile shipyards, and automated defense platforms. Taeyang stared at the display in shock. I didn't know. Even I didn't know we had this many. Nobody knew except the top command staff, Jinho explained. Not even most ship captains know they're flying military vessels. For 200 years, humanity has been building, preparing, hiding our strength. We learned from our own history. We learned from the wars that nearly destroyed Earth. We swore we would never be helpless again. He walked to another console and entered his command codes. Files appeared on the screen. Classified documents that showed the true scope of human military preparation. Every merchant ship was built with hidden weapon systems. Every colony had underground bunkers stocked with military equipment. Every civilian knew basic combat training from childhood, taught under the guise of emergency preparedness. We hoped we would never need this, Jinho continued. We wanted to explore the stars in peace, but we also remembered what happened when peaceful people met those who only understood violence. We remembered and we prepared. Yuna stepped closer to the display. If we reveal this now, we give up our greatest advantage. They'll see what we really are. If we don't reveal it, Taeyang countered, they'll attack expecting an easy victory. The surprise will cost them dearly, but some of them will survive to warn their empire. Either way, they'll know eventually. Jinho pulled up another screen showing the countdown timer. 72 hours until the Caltherian deadline. We try one more time, he decided. We offer them peace. We show them our records of Earth's history, our wars, our suffering, why we chose a different path. We give them every chance to walk away. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of diplomatic messages that went nowhere. The Caltherians responded to each offer with mockery. They sent back recordings of their warriors training, videos of conquered worlds, messages meant to intimidate and frighten. They believed humans were soft, weak, corrupted by peace. On the command center screens, long-range sensors tracked the Caltherian war fleet as it assembled at the edge of human space. 10,000 ships, just as intelligence had predicted. They formed up in traditional battle formations, proud and confident. Jinho watched them gather and felt something heavy settle in his chest. "They're not going to back down," he said to no one in particular. "No," Hana agreed beside him. "They think they've already won." The countdown timer reached 0. Jinho stood at the communications console, his hand hovering over the transmission button. Around him, the command center had gone silent. Every person present understood what came next would change humanity forever. They could remain the peaceful explorers they had been, accept subjugation, and hope for mercy, or they could become something else, something they had hoped to leave behind in Earth's violent past. "Open a channel," Jinho ordered. "Full broadcast, all frequencies. I want every Caltherian ship to hear this. I want their emperor to hear this." The channel opened. Jinho took a breath, thinking of all the generations who had worked to build this peace, and all the generations who had fought and died to earn humanity's right to exist. "This is Admiral Jinho Park of Earth Defense Command to all Caltherian forces. You have chosen war. You ignored our offers of peace. You mistook our kindness for weakness. You demanded submission from a people who bowed to no one." He paused, letting his words carry across the void of space. "Very well. Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done." He closed the channel and turned to his command staff. "Signal all ships. Drop the disguises. It's time they see what we really are." Throughout human space, on 50,000 vessels, captains received the same order. Hull plating slid away to reveal weapon batteries. Cargo bays opened to show fighter craft. Mining ships activated military-grade shields. The merchant fleet of humanity transformed before Caltherian eyes into an armada that dwarfed their invasion force. The war had begun. Commander Sang-Hoon Lee watched the Caltherian fleet advance through the long-range sensors of his stealth ship. The alien vessels moved in perfect formation, confident and unhurried. They had no idea his ship hung in space less than 1,000 kilometers away, invisible to their instruments waiting. "They're broadcasting on open channels," reported Suman Bey from the communications station. "They're laughing at us. They think we're going to run." Sang-Hoon allowed himself a small smile. "Let them think that. How long until they reach the asteroid field?" 30 minutes at current speed," answered the navigation officer. "Good. Everything was proceeding according to plan. For the past 3 days, human forces had been broadcasting false communications, scrambled orders, panic-filled transmissions between colony defense forces. The Caltherians had intercepted every single one just as intended. They heard human commanders arguing about retreating. They heard colonists begging for evacuation. They heard exactly what they expected to hear from a weak, frightened enemy. What they didn't hear were the real communications, sent through quantum-encrypted channels that humanity had developed specifically for this purpose. They didn't detect the hidden military bases throughout the system powering up their weapons. They didn't see the cargo vessels repositioning themselves into attack formations, while their hulls still displayed civilian identification codes. "Sir, we're getting reports from all sectors," Suman said, pressing her earpiece closer. "All units are in position. The Caltherians are exactly where we want them." Sang-Hoon opened a secure channel to Admiral Park on the command station. "This is Shadow 7. The trap is set. Awaiting your order." From his position aboard the orbital station, Jinho looked at the tactical display that showed the true positions of both fleets. The Caltherians saw a few dozen human ships scrambling to form a defensive line, already breaking apart under the pressure of facing a superior force. What they couldn't see were the hundreds of vessels hiding in the asteroid field ahead, the thousands more approaching from behind using the system's star as cover, and the orbital weapons platforms that had been disguised as space debris for decades. "Dr. Minji Shin, status of the new weapon systems?" Jinho asked. The weapons research director looked up from her console, excitement barely contained in her voice. "All systems operational, Admiral. The magnetic accelerators are charged. The plasma lance arrays are ready. The kinetic kill vehicles are armed and locked on target." Taeyang Choi studied the enemy formation. "They're using the standard Caltherian battle approach. Heavy ships in front, carriers in the middle, support vessels in the rear. It's the same formation they've used to conquer 17 other species." "Predictable," Jinho observed. "How many species fought back?" "According to our intelligence, none. They all surrendered after the first engagement." Jinho nodded slowly. "They've never faced real resistance. They've never had to adapt. That's going to cost them." He opened the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Park, execute Alpha Strike on my mark. Remember your training. Remember why we prepared. Show them what humans can do when we stop being nice. Pilot Do-hyun Kang sat in the cockpit of his fighter, one of 300 similar craft hidden inside what appeared to be a damaged freighter. His squadron had been waiting in this position for 6 hours, breathing recycled air, running on minimum power to avoid detection. Around him, he could hear the quiet breathing of his wingmates over the comm system. Squadron leaders, this is Do-hyun. We launch in 2 minutes. Remember, hit fast and hit hard. Make every shot count. These aliens think we're merchants and farmers. Let's teach them the price of that mistake. The freighter's cargo bay doors began to open silently in the vacuum of space. Do-hyun ran through his pre-flight checks one more time, his hands steady despite the adrenaline flowing through his system. He had trained for this scenario 1,000 times in simulations. Now it was real. The Caltherian fleet reached the designated coordinates. On every human vessel, weapons officers watched their targeting solutions turn green. The moment stretched out, suspended between peace and war, between the humanity that had been and the humanity that had to be. All ships, Jinho's voice came through, calm and clear. Mark, execute. Space erupted in light and violence. The asteroids that the Caltherians had ignored suddenly came alive, revealing themselves as disguised weapons platforms. Magnetic accelerators fired, launching projectiles at a fraction of light speed into the alien formation. The first salvo hit before the Caltherians could even register they were under attack. 6 heavy cruisers exploded in seconds, their shields overwhelmed by the sheer kinetic force. The cargo freighters opened their holds and disgorged swarms of fighters. Do-hyun's squadron burst from their hiding place along with hundreds of others, a cloud of small, fast craft that moved with precision and purpose. They flew in patterns the Caltherians had never seen before, weaving and dodging, covering each other, striking at weak points in the alien ship's defenses. Alpha Wing, focus fire on that carrier, Do-hyun ordered. Beta Wing, cover us! His fighter screamed through space, weapons blazing. The plasma cannons mounted on his small ship were designed by Dr. Minji's team, specifically to punch through Caltherian shields. They worked exactly as promised. The carrier's shields flickered and failed under the concentrated assault. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull as the fighter squadron targeted the hangar bays. From behind, the main human battle fleet dropped their disguises and activated their jump drives. 50,000 warships appeared throughout the combat zone in a coordinated emergence that military historians would study for generations. Each ship had been positioned by Taeyang's strategic planning to maximize confusion and devastation. The Caltherian fleet tried to respond, but they had trained to fight enemies who attacked directly, who valued honor and fair combat. They had never faced an opponent who used deception, who attacked from multiple angles simultaneously, who targeted command ships and logistics vessels instead of fighting ship to ship. Sang-hoon's stealth vessel moved through the chaos like a ghost, its advanced sensors feeding targeting data to the fleet. Command, this is Shadow 7. Enemy flagship identified. Transmitting coordinates. 20 battleships immediately shifted their fire to the designated target. The Caltherian command vessel, massive and powerful, found itself under assault from every direction. Its shields held for nearly a minute, an impressive display of their technology. Then they failed. Do not destroy it, Jinho ordered. Disable only. I want their commander alive to tell the story. The human ship switched to electromagnetic pulse weapons, frying the flagship systems without destroying the hull. The great vessel went dark, drifting powerless in space. Throughout the battle zone, the pattern repeated. Caltherian ships were isolated, surrounded, and systematically taken apart by an enemy who fought like nothing they had ever encountered. The humans used no honor, showed no mercy to equipment, but carefully avoided targeting life support or escape pods. They fought to win, to disable, to demonstrate overwhelming superiority. In 90 minutes, the battle was over. Of the 10,000 Caltherian ships that had entered the system, only 4,000 remained operational. Those vessels were pulling back in disorder, their formations shattered, their confidence destroyed. On the command station, Jinho watched the enemy retreat. His face showed no triumph, only a deep sadness. Casualties? He asked quietly. 17 fighters lost, Hana reported. 3 frigates damaged, none destroyed. Total casualties 33 killed, 87 wounded, 33 lives, 33 people who had woken up that morning, not knowing they would die before sunset. The price of war, even a war they hadn't wanted. And the Caltharians, approximately 60,000 dead. Another 100,000 wounded. We've detected 400 escape pods. Recovery ships are already moving to pick them up. Jinho closed his eyes for a moment. 60,000. More than he had hoped. Fewer than he had feared. Make sure those prisoners are treated well. Full medical care, proper food, respect. I want them to see that we're not monsters, even if we had to show them our teeth. He opened a channel to all human forces. Well done, everyone. We showed them what we're capable of. But remember, this was just the first battle. The Caltharian Empire is vast. They won't give up after one defeat. Remain alert. Remain ready. The war isn't over. But in his heart, Jinho hoped it would be. Hoped that maybe, just maybe, the Caltharians would see reason now. Would understand that humanity was not prey to be hunted. The message boards on the Caltharian networks, intercepted by human intelligence, told a different story. The Empire was shocked, humiliated, enraged. They called humans demons, ghosts, monsters who violated the laws of honorable warfare. And they were mobilizing everything they had for revenge.